Welcome back, everyone. This is a series of videos documenting the construction of this lumber shed build. If you've not yet viewed the previous videos and are interested in seeing how we got to this point, I've made a playlist on my channel where you can go and find all the previous videos. If you remember at the end of the previous video, I had pre-cut all of my rafters in the garage and I was now ready to get them on. The blocks that I was just cutting will act as spacers in between the rafters, and I'm using them to give something a little bit more solid to nail into besides just toe nailing into the beam below. I also hope they will aid in preventing the rafters from trying to twist. I had considered standing them up on end, but ultimately felt that they would be a lot more solid nailed down flat. On similar buildings, we would put bracing once all the rafters were on. It would start in one corner and go on an angle through the whole building until it reached the far corner on the angle, going through all the rafters. This really helps solidify everything. I really didn't want to get into that on this small shed, as they are compound angles, meaning you have to cut an angle going up an angle going sideways in the same cut. And I didn't have a miter saw back here. I suppose you could use a skill saw, but while I have done this type of angle and this type of thing before, they're definitely not second nature to me, and I felt that I would be okay with forgoing that particular bracing this time around. The blocking that I'm using seemed to help a lot, at least from the field test, as once I had a rafter sandwiched in between the blocks, it felt solid and I was not able to twist it. Getting started on this type of roof is exciting because I know that I'm getting close to having the lion's share of this building complete. And getting a roof over your building is always a milestone in the build for sure. However, it is one of the more tedious jobs on a build, and I find it to be very repetitive in a lot of cases. There were one or two rafters that I had to make some additional notches into to fit around some of the things on the posts. I wasn't exactly sure where each rafter would land, but decided if I had to do a couple extra notches, no big deal. All in all, pre-cutting the rafters was a win in my opinion, as they went on pretty fast, which was welcome because we are in the middle of our first little cold snap of the winter. The weather definitely made this kind of time-lapse video a bit more difficult, as I don't have expensive camera equipment, and I find that below about, I'd say, minus 15 degrees Celsius, the battery life on my camera diminishes very quickly. For strapping, I would usually use 2x4s on 24-inch centers for this type of roof. There's two reasons I'm not going to be doing that here. One is that I have an overabundance of 1-inch lumber and a shortage of 2x4s. And the second is because I am repurposing, as they say, a previously used roof. It already has screw holes in it, so I measure and place my strapping where the holes will line up for me. I then double back and fill in with additional strapping to give my roof some more support underneath. As you can see, we jumped ahead quite a bit on the strapping, and that's because it was around minus 18 degrees Celsius at the time, and my camera battery just died on me. I'm not too upset though. As I said before, a lot of the roof is pretty repetitive, and strapping is another one of those jobs. So I'm sure you guys can just imagine how that went and don't need to sit through me doing every piece of strapping. After going inside to grab something to eat and charge the camera battery up, I just came back out and I'm almost ready to start on the roof itself. I just have to trim the ends, as I was leaving them hang long for the time being until I had them all done and could just snap a line up. Here's what it looks like when I'm all done. Not too pretty, but it's pretty solidly strapped, I would say, for this size of a building. I also had an old roll of tar paper that I figured I would lay down as some extra water protection. I didn't get as far with it as I would have liked, but one row is better than nothing, and I didn't want to buy a whole new roll for this type of project. Normally around here we would use ice and water shield for roof protection anyways, and I definitely wasn't buying a whole roll of that just for this building. This was the moment of truth, as I was really hoping all my measurements worked out and the old screw holes in the roofing lined up with my strapping. They did, and then I was away to the races. I even had a couple extra sheets, so if I didn't like the look of one, I ended up setting it aside to make sure I was using all the best ones. A couple were a little bit shorter than the rest, so these are the ones that I ended up setting aside. The roof is not perfect, but it was free, so I can make that work. Some of the old screw holes were a bit worn, and I'm not yet sure if the washers on the new screws will seal everywhere. Oh, I'm sure it'll have a leak or two, but in the spring when it warms up, a tuba gutter seal, which is a type of caulking used to seal gutters, should work pretty well on this stuff to patch any little leaks around the screw holes that I end up finding. Plus, it will give me most of the winter to see how well this stuff is going to hold up. We do also have some old steel roofing here at the farm that I could have used. It only took me about an hour to put this on, so if I have to, I could always replace it in the future with that steel. But I like trying to use something like this if at all possible, rather than seeing it thrown away. And it was still fairly cold out even in the afternoon here, so I figure there's never a bad time to stop and have a quick coffee break to warm yourself back up. It's a great feeling to finally see the last piece of roofing going on. It's kind of a symbolic end to the project, although I do have some more plans for it going forward. At least now I know I have a sheltered area. There probably will be one more video at least in the future documenting some of the finishing touches I will be doing, but they will have to be put on hold for now as there are some more pressing matters that need to be attended to around the farm and some more lumber that needs to be milled as this project has depleted my construction lumber store greatly. It's not the prettiest looking roof in the world, but I'm happy that I didn't have to pay anything for it, and hopefully it works out good for me. The last thing I want to do was just take these two braces off to kind of give you guys a look at what the final thing looked like. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.